All right, let's just jump right in. We're at a point where two of the biggest forces on the planet, we're talking artificial intelligence and Wall Street, are doing more than just meeting. They are smashing into each other on the blockchain, and this collision, it's kickstarting something totally new, a real autonomous economy.
And it all kicks off with this number right here, $25 billion. That's the on-chain value of real-world assets, think bonds, credits, stuff like that have been turned into tokens. Now the crazy part? Just 1 year ago, that number was barely $6.5 billion. That's a growth rate of nearly 300%. So yeah, this isn't just some passing trend, it's a tidal wave.
So this brings us to the central question for this whole explainer. What actually happens when you take this huge, exploding pool of Wall Street money and you hand the keys over to an AI? Well, the answer is you get the very blueprint for a new kind of economy, one that runs itself. Okay, to really get this, we have to start with the foundation. You have to understand what this new economy is actually built on. And it's all about tangible, real-world value finally making its way onto the blockchain. This is Wall Street's big entrance.
So the first piece of the puzzle is what we call real-world assets, or RWAs. And look, this isn't about inventing some new, speculative digital coin. Nope. This is about taking the absolute bedrock of the traditional financial world, things you know, like US government bonds or corporate debt, even real estate, and turning them into digital tokens. Why? Because it makes them way more efficient, totally transparent, and accessible to anyone, anywhere.
And this quote just nails the shift that's happening. RWA isn't some tiny proof of concept anymore. We've blown past that. It's now a full-on battlefield where the biggest names in finance are dropping billion-dollar bets. They're voting with real money.
And just look at the variety here. This isn't just about one thing. We've got 6 different types of assets, and every single one of them has over $1 billion on-chain. We're talking US Treasuries, gold, private credit. This is a huge structural shift. The market is officially growing up, moving from a single product niche to a whole diversified ecosystem.
So, who's putting all this money down? The biggest players in the world, asset managers handling trillions like BlackRock and global banking giants like JP Morgan. They're not just watching from the sidelines anymore, they are in the game.
And they're not doing it alone. They're teaming up with the platforms building the new financial plumbing for this economy. You've got Ondo Finance, which is bringing BlackRock's tokenized funds to everybody. You have Securitize, building the hardcore regulated infrastructure that a company like BlackRock demands. And then you have a legacy giant like Franklin Templeton, building a bridge from traditional finance to super fast blockchains like Solana. The whole thing is being built as we speak.
So we've got the assets, right? The raw value from Wall Street now living on the blockchain. But assets on their own are kind of passive. They just sit there. They need someone or something to manage them. And that brings us to our second pillar, the AI agents.
Now, this is a super important point. When I say AI agent, please do not think of a helpful chatbot. An autonomous economic agent, or an AEA, is a completely different beast. Think of it as a self-driving entity for finance. It can look at data, make its own economic decisions, and then go and execute transactions on the blockchain, all without a human needing to click a single button. It's a real, active player in the economy.
And this is a massive jump from how things used to work. A classic smart contract? It's reactive. It just sits there waiting for a command, following a super simple if this, then that rule. But an AI agent? It's proactive. It's out there, on its own, sensing the market, deciding what to do, and then taking action to hit its goals.
So how does it pull this off? It runs on this simple but incredibly powerful 3-step loop. First, it senses. It reads data from everywhere, both on the blockchain and off. Then, it decides. Based on the goals we give it, it figures out the best move. And finally, it executes. It goes and starts a transaction. Sense, decide, execute. Over and over and over, 24/7.
Of course, building the world where millions of these things can operate is a huge challenge. And that's where projects like Fetch.ai come into the picture. As part of the new ASI Alliance, they're basically building the decentralized nervous system for this whole AI economy, letting all these agents find each other, negotiate, and do business on a global scale.
Okay, so let's recap. We have our 2 main ingredients, valuable, real-world assets on one side and intelligent, autonomous agents on the other. Now, let's smash them together and see what happens. This is where the magic is.
Because think about it. What is a tokenized treasury bond just sitting there on a blockchain? It's just data. It's totally passive. It can't do a thing by itself. And on the flip side, what's a brilliant AI agent with no money to manage? It's just code. It's a Ferrari with an empty gas tank. These actors are totally powerless without assets. You see where this is going, right?
They absolutely need each other. It's this perfect symbiotic relationship. The real-world assets give the AI agents something stable, something regulated, something that actually produces a yield to manage. And in return, the AI agents provide super efficient, non-stop automated management. They create liquidity and allow this whole RWA market to scale to a level we can't even imagine.
So, what does this all actually look like in practice? What are the real-world consequences of building an economy that's increasingly run by AI?
Well, check this out, because this shows you the sheer size of the opportunity. Right now, a whopping 88% of all these tokenized assets are just sitting there, parked in institutional wallets. Only 12% are actually being put to work in the world of decentralized finance, or DeFi. That huge 88% slice, that is an enormous ocean of dormant capital, just waiting for AI agents to come along and deploy it.
And you've got three huge forces making this happen right now. First, regulators around the world are finally creating clear rules for this stuff. Second, the tech itself is getting way better and easier to use. And third, and this is the big one, the AI agent economy itself is creating this massive, new demand. The agents will be the main customers for these on-chain assets.
And all of this leads to a pretty profound shift in our role, in the human role. In this new economy, we stop being the doers, the people manually clicking the buttons for every trade. We become the supervisors. We set the big picture goals, we define the rules and the risks, and then we let our autonomous agents get to work handling the moment-to-moment execution.
Which leaves us with one last, kind of mind-bending thought to chew on. As this autonomous economy gets bigger and bigger, and more of our world is managed by these AI agents, it makes you ask a totally new kind of question. In the future, who or what are we actually working for?